Though it has been at least a couple of weeks since I've been able to gather up my thoughts and make a recording. So I have been up to a lot the last couple weeks. What about you? For me, the last 2 months, actually, I have been taking care of my little granddaughter for about 44 hours a week. And she was 3, and then she turned 4 at the end of August. And then she started preschool. So she just started this week, and thank goodness she's loving it because I went through like grief. I have to call it mom grief or Grammy grief or something because I love spending time with her, and she really is like my little apprentice. She loves to plant seeds. I was so looking forward to that in November because, it's really hot here. We can't grow until November, but I was looking forward to that. And not that I still can't. She lives close by, but it's just different when she's there every day to help me water and make medicines in the kitchen. And she loves to help make elderberry syrup, and she loves to help slice the oranges and lemons for fire cider. And, I just really, I miss her. I miss her so much. But at the same time, now I have so much more time and energy for all of the other things that I need to actually do. So it is what it is. One of the other things I spent some time doing, my daughter is a paraprofessional at an autistic school, and she got sick. And so I went over there and took care of her for the whole weekend, making sure she had all of her teas, making sure that she and the kids were fed. And then within a few days, I would say Monday or Tuesday after that, then my granddaughter got sick. She had a fever all day. So that was cuddle day. All cuddles, and she loves elderberry syrup. So, we did all that fun stuff for taking care of sick people. And that was about almost a week. And then I've also been working on completing some things and revamping some things for my shamanic herbalism certification course. And of course, continuing to take care of my body. So this year has been the year of me being self-possessed and really honing in on my health and fitness, for which I do have a support. I pay for a coach, and he's the best ever. So if you need a fitness and nutrition coach, then I know somebody. And he really is awesome. He's an excellent communicator and super smart and all that stuff. I put that on my website. So I have been on like this crazy awesome transformational journey. I've lost 17 pounds, which is fun, but even more so, I have gained so much muscle and so much confidence within this process. And I think really knowing and taking my health and my body so seriously and as a priority is really helping me tune into this belief that I have that the body in this 3D reality is the conduit, the channel for us to connect to source. Our souls are inside these bodies, and the body is literally designed to be antennas to source, to be, yeah, antennas, the channel to connect with higher consciousness, to connect with the angelic realm, to come into alignment with our own soul's purpose for being here right now. especially right now. Things are nuts. So, along the line of things are nuts, some of my nearest and dearest people that I really care about so very much are really going through some crazy times and very shocking and life upheavals that they did not see coming. And being that we are highly intuitive beings, I think sometimes when we don't see something coming, it's because we were not meant to see the thing coming. Why? Only your soul really knows the answer to that for you. But when that happened for me, I feel like I wasn't meant to see it coming because it was part of my soul's decision before I ever came here. And I needed some specific things to happen without me knowing they were going to happen so that I could grow in very specific ways. And when we grow, we become more magnanimous beings, more full of light, more full of compassion. And it's possible that we could even open our hearts more than we ever thought was possible because of the very trying and challenging times. So, what my nearest and dearest are going through reminded me of two things. It reminded me of a dream I had in January of this year, 2024, and reminded me of the time when me and my children, or how do you say that? My children and I were homeless for a couple of months. Now, we weren't the kind of homeless that were living under a bridge. We had very good friends, and I feel so blessed for that. But I learned a lot through that experience about how to manifest because when somebody finds themselves without their home, then that becomes the number one priority of things you want to manifest. I think a lot of times when people think about what do they want, what do they want to manifest, they have trouble picking one thing to focus on, or the thing they think they want isn't coming from the deepest desires of their heart. And they may not know it, but then it makes it harder to be diligent and focused and determined. And I totally get that. So I'm going to share the dream that I had, and then I'm going to talk about a little bit more about my homelessness experience and really focus on the lessons I learned more so than the story, because I already shared the story, which I'll put in the show notes. But it's called Manifesting Feels Good because when we're manifesting, it is supposed to feel good. You are supposed to feel good. It's kind of the point of it. And a lot of times when people approach it, they're instead feeling anger, frustration, dissatisfied, disappointed. But what we really want to work on practicing is feeling good. So we'll get to that after my dream. So in January, excuse me, I had this dream. I speak my dreams as if it's happening in present time because it helps me feel the symbolism more and what's happening more. So here's the dream. I see myself flying in a plane. I'm a passenger in this plane. I'm telling a woman my story of how I was flying in a plane. This is all in the dream. I'm telling a woman my story of how I was flying in a plane. So as I tell my story, I see it all happening again. I'm flying in a plane, but then the plane breaks apart and we all fall out. I feel a rush of terror and uncertainty. However, the parts of the plane land softly on a fluffy cloud, as we all do ish. We're kind of suspended in air, not falling, right above the clouds. I see the parts just sitting there, resting on the thick, puffy clouds. So I start to reach for the parts to put them back together again like a giant puzzle, thinking I can and should do this. As I attempt to put the plane back together myself, we start to fall. And I suddenly see that if I stop trying to put all back together again myself, then God will do it. I have to get comfortable floating while God puts the plane back together for us. The woman listening to me share my story is smiling at me knowingly. I wake up. So that's my dream. I wake up from this dream with a deep feeling that God will catch us as we fall. We may feel our dream destination has fallen apart, or our way there has fallen apart and it is crashing down. But if we can trust and not try to put it all back together again by ourselves, then God will put it together for us in divine timing. He knows what plane parts are needed. He, she, the divine. Give it whatever you want. I just tend to say he. But I needed that message because at that time, I had been trying very forcefully to get my foundation under my feet. And the way I can tell that I'm forcing something is the mounting sense of impatience and frustration that I feel. So, how we feel in our day to day lives in trying to achieve our dreams is the signs. Those are the signs for you, your navigation system to pay attention to. So if you're feeling anger, frustration, impatience, disappointment, those are your signs that you're trying to force something or that you need to digest your feelings and root out the root cause of it and get back into your connection with source and trust. Some more of the red flag signs for all of us would include feeling in a hurry. That's a big one for me. Anytime I feel in a hurry or I feel rushed, got to do it now, now, now. Oh my gosh, I'm running out of time, or I don't have enough time, or blah, blah, blah. That's a big sign. And then, of course, I mentioned the impatience and frustration, the anger, and there's also some bitterness, some sorely disappointed. These are all normal human emotions, and of course, they're meant to be digested fully and learned from, but not to wallow in or bury yourself in it. I think a lot of times we feel we can and should do something, the responsible thing, but because we may be feeling terror, uncertainty, impatience, frustration, and unfortunately for these dear ones, some betrayal. Not some, a lot of betrayal. Those run deep and really deserve a lot of digesting, a lot of feeling those feelings all the way through and asking for divine assistance to basically vaporize it with the light. It is possible. I know it sounds woo woo, but that's me. And I've had the experience of having that happen on more than one occasion. It is possible that spirit can help us really transform, transmute, or just vaporize those heavy feelings of darkness. And I don't know how, but it just turns it into light. And then we're given inspiration instead. We're given hope. We're given the next step. It's just an incredible either visionary, sometimes we get pictures, and sometimes we just get this feeling and we just know. We know the next step, or we know everything is going to be okay. It's this incredible, indescribable peace that most people on the outside could not possibly understand. So that's part of the puzzle and part of what I got from this dream. And one of the things I also got or felt like sharing from the dream is opening up our ability when everything's, falling apart and crashing down, making time for pleasure, for joy, for gratitude, and practicing that. It's interesting because Dr. Joe Dispenza and I believe the Heart Math Institute actually studied this, that if people practice feeling grateful 3 times a day for just 15 minutes, they increase their immune system's function by 50% in 4 days. Now, that's not the only thing that they discovered, but practicing gratitude, even when we are going through the worst times in our lives, just taking it out, like carving out the time, right? You just decide, I'm going to spend 15 minutes at these points in my day, and I'm just going to give myself permission to feel good for 15 minutes. Now, I have it really easy because I have these amazing grandchildren. So I have a very easy access to feeling absolute joy and unconditional love. And they make me smile. Like, it's so easy. So if you have a person, a place, or a thing that makes you smile easy, brings joy and peace and gratitude into your heart, I invite you to go there at least 3 times a day for 15 minutes. Set your timer. It'll be okay to give yourself that permission to spend your time in that way. And I promise you, this does not make you an irresponsible person. This is so good for you. And I really believe that we're here to figure out how to navigate the contrast in our lives through practicing feeling good even when everything hits the fan. So that's all I'm going to say about that is feeling pleasure in our lives, having joy and peace even when things aren't going as we thought they would or should. It is not selfish and it's not irresponsible. And I think one of the reasons I am mentioning the concept of responsibility is actually because I think it was 2021. I'm not quite sure, but it could be that someone else I knew suddenly had to move. And I remember her expressing that she felt like she was irresponsible, but the reason she had to move actually had nothing to do with her responsibility when it comes to what people think of as, being irresponsible. Had nothing to do with her financial situation or her willingness to earn an income or anything like that. It had nothing to do with any of that. And same with me, I was working when I lost my home. And what's different, what I wanted to point out is I never allowed myself to think the thought that I am irresponsible because I was losing my home. I was actually making the decision to let go of the house because I felt like for me, that was the most responsible choice I could make in that moment with what I had available to me. And with my friend 3 years ago, none of this was on her shoulders. Like, this was not her. And she still felt like she was a bad mom and she felt like she was irresponsible, and we all have our crosses to bear. And these things show up in our hands and in our fingerprints, no joke. this concept of responsibility. So sometimes it's our life purpose and sometimes it's our life lesson, but it's just where some people naturally tend to go is this sense of responsibility. And so I just wanted to say that there are certain circumstances that happen in life that don't actually mean anything negative about us as human beings. I truly believe that all of us, through all of our challenges, are absolutely worthy of care, worthy of a home, and worthy of experiencing peace and joy and camaraderie in life, no matter what we're going through. So, some of the things I learned when I was homeless, and again, I shared my whole story, but to just narrow it down, at one point I had 3 jobs. At this time, I think I only had 1 job. But in 9 months' time previous to becoming homeless, I had a minivan. It was completely paid for, and it just one breakdown after another was happening. But it wasn't like it's old and it's breaking down. It's like I'm driving down the highway and somebody else's tire blew out and I could not safely swerve out of the way. So I had to run over it, but then it ripped out my fuel line or something. All I know is we didn't blow up, but the car immediately stopped working and I had to get over as safely and quickly as possible. And oh my gosh, we weren't even off the highway. We were in that triangle of space between the flow of lanes and the people trying to get on the freeway. I don't know how the tow truck got there, but they did. And so everything was fine for me. And my son was the only one with me when that happened, I think. So anyway, in 9 months' time, $6,500 of repairs for a single mom with 4 children. Like, no, I just couldn't. I just couldn't. And so, anyway, I had choices to make. I either keep the car and keep going to my job and keep the ability to get my kids to all their schools. At that time, they were in 3 different schools because of their age gaps. And, or I could let go of the house, right? And keep the car or the opposite, but I couldn't keep both. And so anyhow, that's what happened. And we didn't end up living under a bridge. We stayed in, I think, 4 different homes over that 2.5 months. So from the time of the first day of homelessness to getting into our new place was 75 days. But the events that took place for us was before that. And so it just took a little bit of time to get the money that ended up coming into my life through events. I would have no idea that that was coming at all. The whole time I had no clue how any of this was going to get resolved. And people were asking me, "Oh my gosh, what are you going to do?" And I just said, "I don't know." And that was it. There was literally nothing else to say. But what they didn't know is that I had a mantra and a prayer in my heart, and I could feel my angels with me. And some of my angels happen to be my ancestors, close ancestors, more like my mom and all of my grandparents, who I know love me dearly. And they would never leave me. And plus, I know I have at least one guardian angel, but there could be several more based on experiences. So, anyway, I never felt alone. And so I knew they were going to help me. And so I always prayed to them, something along the lines of, "Thank you, Spirit, for delivering the perfect home for me and my family under grace in perfect ways." Something like that. And anytime I would start to go into a negative thinking pattern or a downward spiral of thoughts, I am fully aware of how dark and deep I can fall. And I've had many, many dark nights of the soul throughout my life. But this was not one of them. And the reason is because I knew I didn't have the time or the luxury to allow my energy to fall that low. I felt like this just deep knowing that I would never get us out of that situation if I allowed myself to spiral down. And so I just didn't let it happen. I just kept putting up my hands and my thoughts. No, we're not going there. And I would focus on my prayers and my thoughts that were thanking Spirit ahead of time to delivering to me the perfect home for me and my family. And that is it. And then I would go back to my normal life. And if I started to have negative thoughts, I would like immediately stop it and I would go back to my prayers and I would do it over and over until I felt better. And then back to my life. And I really got to enjoy it was the happiest 2.5 months of my life because I had so much focus. I had so much intention, and it was all of me that wanted that one thing. And so there it was. What I learned from the whole experience was, oh gosh, I think I wrote down 11 things. Whether or not I can combine them, I don't know. I'll have to take a look. But number one, circumstances do not dictate how I feel. My thoughts do. Our thoughts are a chemical reaction in the brain, and those chemical reactions create a flood of hormones that we call emotions. They create sensations in the body that we give names to: anxiety, depression, frustration, despair, all of it. And I've felt them, and it is awful. So while I was homeless, I could not allow that to happen. So I forced my thoughts to go where I wanted them to go. And number two, how to powerfully manage my thoughts for approximately 75 days straight until I got exactly what I wanted and moved into my new family home. Number three, I learned how to pull myself out of an emotional downward spiral immediately and effectively 100% of the time. Number four, I learned how to feel good, positive, supportive of others, and supportive to myself and my children. I learned how to feel useful emotions the whole time I was working towards my goal of having a home for my family, even though I did not know when or how. I believed that it was possible and it was being taken care of by spirit. Number five, I learned how to not take on other people's thoughts and feelings. So that would be my kids who were obviously stressed, and that would be other people asking me, "Oh my gosh, what are you going to do?" No, nobody gave me a hard time. Nobody told me that they thought I was irresponsible or anything like that. So I didn't have any of that BS flying into my face. But a lot of people would take on their kids' pain and experience and make it mean really terrible things about themselves. But I wouldn't allow myself to think that way because that definitely leads me into a pit of despair. And I didn't want to have to climb out of that. We have to make decisions about who we are. And being a bad mom is not a decision I choose to make. So that was important to me to have love and compassion for them, to be a listening ear, but not take it into my body and into my mind in a way that was harmful to me or weighed me down instead of lifted me up. Number six, I learned how to accept the present circumstances and live in my present circumstances with a focused mind and a joyful heart. Not through resisting, reacting, or avoiding, though. It was just a matter of where I chose to focus my attention. That's it. Number seven, I learned how to set an intention without being attached or overly attached to specifics. Number eight, I learned how to never make my circumstances mean anything bad about me. AKA how to have my own back. You've heard the phrase, I've got your six. Well, you have to have your own. You have to have your own back about the decisions that you make and about whatever circumstances come your way. We all do the best we can with what we have. Number 9, I learned how to not blame, judge, resent, or hate the quote unquote cause of my circumstances. Number 10, I learned how to be willing to be open to letting go of everything. I gave away and sold almost everything we owned. I did get a tiny storage unit for some of the bigger things I wanted to keep, but yeah, most of it I sold or gave away. And number 11, how to be open to feeling out ideas and opportunities that were presented to me. Number 12, I learned how to feel okay, feel safe in the not knowing how I'd find and pay for a family home again. Number 13 is the last one. I learned how to pay attention to my body sensations and emotions so I'd know what action was needed in that present moment. And here's what's interesting is a lot of people associate anxiety as 100% a negative thing, but I remember one day I was with the kids and we were talking and hanging out and having a great time, but then all of a sudden my body just started to get more and more and more anxiety telling me like with this thought, like, I need to go, I need to go, I need to go. And it's all I had to do was go to the post office. I don't know why it felt so urgent all of a sudden, but that was the signal that I was receiving. My body was receiving a signal of anxiety. We gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go right now. And so I'm like, I'm so sorry. I hate to cut this short, but I gotta go. I'll be back. So I go to the post office during this time of homelessness and I park my car and I get out and my foot practically lands on like a 10 or $20 bill. I don't remember what it is anymore, but I was like, what in the world? Because come on, when you're homeless, 10 or $20 is a lot of food, am I right? So anyhow, I feel like it was like a message from spirit. The money is coming. Don't give up. We're paying attention. And here's the little nugget that comes before the big one, the big payoff or the big demonstration, manifestation of what it is you've been asking for. And anyhow, I don't remember how much time happened between, finding money in the street in a parking lot where it was clearly nobody else's and obviously meant for me. So from that time to the time that the accident happened in the parking lot, that led to me getting a payout so that I could get our home. I don't know how much time passed, but I do believe that sometimes we're given these smaller versions of the thing we're asking for as not like a carrot that we'll never reach, but like a sign of hope and that we are paying attention and keep going. It's a sign of encouragement because it is on the way. And we have to pray as if it's already happened, of course, and we have to practice feeling as if it's already happened. But when things like that show up for us, it's just another moment, an opportunity to say thank you. Thank you so much for delivering the perfect home for me and my family under grace in perfect ways. And it really was a wonderful moment of gratitude for me. So, what I'm saying is, not all anxiety or negative emotion is bad if you're paying attention to why it might be coming up and where it might be trying to get you to go to, whether it be a place like the post office or to speak to a specific person, to reach out for uh, help in some way or whatever, wherever it's leading you. And You know what I think is also fascinating about my experience, and I said this in the video, I know I'm repeating myself, but it did lead me to a specific location. And across the street was this place my daughter liked to get food from. And so I went to get food across the street from our new home that had been delivered to me under grace in perfect ways. And there's a place right next door that was hiring, and I applied for a job, even though I already had a job. Actually, I might have had two at that point. But anyway, um, that job led me to becoming an entrepreneur within 2 years after that. And I'm still seeing some of those clients today. And that's from 20. So I got that job in December of 2014. And then I left. She sold the business in the middle of 2017. And I have been seeing my clients since then. So they have watched me become a grandmother, even. It's really amazing. And I love being an entrepreneur. And so I feel like the experience of homelessness for me brought me exactly where I needed to be. It it was perfect. It all worked out perfectly. And I decided ahead of time, right? When I had made the decision to let go of my house in order to pay off my car, that I would pray for a new home, but I would feel good about it the whole way there instead of the pain and the struggle that I know can be present during those circumstances. So, anyway, I hope this has been useful and helpful. And please let me know if you need support going through a really hard time. So, whether it's shamanic coaching or energy work. I do energy work long distance and in person. I live in Arizona, Gilbert, Arizona. But I am available to help people to digest their feelings if that's what they feel they need. Because again, I had to make those decisions. I had to discern what was best for me in my specific journey. Did I need to digest this feeling, or do I just need to redirect my mind and draw my awareness to where I wanted it to be, right? We all have those decisions to make, especially when we feel like we've been sucker punched. I wasn't going through a severe betrayal in my circumstances, whereas other people, like all three of the other people I'm thinking of, were like, it was crazy and shocking. And so there's a level of grief for sure that needs to be held and digested, and a bunch of other stuff, right? So there might be a lot of digesting that needs to happen, but that is digesting with spiritual support, like asking your divine helpers to support you in that process, the ability to feel and also release it with their guidance and help and support. And sometimes, I remember when I got sucker punched by a friend. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. Like, to me, it came out of nowhere. And oh wow, like the pain of that, And so I did my own meditation because I needed that guidance. And I digested, and it was 15 minutes, and I'm like, wow, I feel a lot better, and but not where I want to be. And so I did it again, and again, I felt better. And then I did it again. So 3 times in a row, it was 45 minutes of my time. And I felt almost like a brand new woman. And then it may have come up the next day. I know for sure I did it at least one more time, and then it was gone. Now, this sucker punch wasn't a betrayal. So again, different circumstances. So we are all unique and we're all different, and we all have our own life experience goggles on, the skin that we live in. So Just be discerning of what you really need to heal and move forward towards your dreams, the thing that your heart most desires in this moment through whatever challenging circumstances you find yourself in. Because no matter what, you are being held and loved through it, no matter how you're feeling. If you're feeling anger and resentment and, you know, a lot of negativity, that doesn't mean that you are not lovable at all. We're allowed to have our human experience, and we want to honor the human part of us that goes through so much in life. And we do that, in my mind, through simply speaking our story and choosing to heal, choosing to digest our feelings and find access and reconnect with spirit. And then we can more easily focus and refocus our mind on that which we want to create, because we are all creators and we are all connected to our source always. I remember that dream that I had where I saw and felt the sun and source came to me in this dream. It was almost like the way people describe their near-death experiences, but I could see source's connection in all things and within me and living in my heart. And I know that source lives inside of all of us. So if you need support, please reach out to me. And if you're enjoying any of this podcast or videos that I tend to put out from time to time, please feel free to subscribe. That's always fun. But most importantly, remember that you are deeply loved and always held, and you are surrounded by a team of invisible, compassionate helpers that are there for you. You will be guided and loved the whole way through. Have a beautiful day as you create the life of your dreams. Bye for now.